It's time to reload, reload, shoot off and unload, let it rip by the caseload. I've got an obsession, and it has constant progression, getting stronger and stronger with each passing day. The urge to collect these guns that protect, not just another object. Trinkets come and go, but high quality guns aren't just for show. They find a place in our lives and can help us survive. When I need to release some of my stress, a trip to the range is the best. But my feelings aren't repressed, I still feel obsessed, collecting more and more of the best, from Glocks to the 2011s. I'm a collector, self-confessed. It's time to reload, reload, shoot off and unload, let her rip by the caseload. If the expense of the gun wasn't enough, there's all the other stuff, the optics and ammo, the holsters and you know, the training and time. You can spend a lifetime working all the overtime just to pay for this obsessive hobby of mine.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jim. Thank you so much for joining me as always. Today I would like to focus on this right here, the Smith & Wesson M&P Performance Center Shield Plus Carry Comp. Now, I began this review with the title in mind before I even began recording, so I'm going to reference that. With the influx of carry comps flooding the market over the past year or two, every gun tuber who wants to keep getting preferential treatment and or free guns needs their review to stand out, and some are exaggerating in those reviews. Not all, but some. So how do you know which ones are, and how do you know which guns are actually worth buying? Well, that's a tough call, but I'll help as much as I can. I'm a porting whore. Most of my guns are either ported or have a physical compensator on them. So I'm not new to this, and I'm also not easily wowed by a small percentage of efficacy. I think that most are acting blown away. They're not lying, they're just not used to comped guns is all. And yes, some are very clearly bullshitting you. So, on to this gun specifically. Too long of a name and too derivative to be considered special. Imagine having to introduce people to this gun all the time. Oh, what are you carrying? Well, I've got my Smith & Wesson M&P Performance Center Shield Plus Carry Comp. Yikes. And as far as derivative, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guns out there right now that fill this exact same role, whether it be this size, a tiny fraction smaller, or just a little bit larger. There's a ton out there, and there already were by the time this came out a few months ago. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, is releasing a ported or a comped carry gun right now. The bubble has got to burst soon. Now, like I said, while most of my guns are ported or comped, I do go back a couple of decades with this, even though this is a really new trend right now. Let me start by saying this. No, you do not need to port or compensate a 9mm. But if you already have good fundamentals with a solid grip and good trigger control, a ported or compensated gun will give you a slight edge in speed for return to zero and provide a safer gun to carry, because it won't feel like a wildly bucking bronco in your hands and should be more easily controllable. And that's really the key with these. Stop listening to people that say shit like, it's a flat shooter. No, it's not. They don't shoot flat. They all have muzzle flip to some degree. They all have recoil to some degree, so it's not a soft shooter. As a matter of fact, a ported or compensated gun, compensated especially, you're going to feel more violence in the recoil. It's not going to come back and hit you quite as hard, but a comped gun, unless it's a true muzzle brake comp where they have ports also on the sides, which this does not, it just gives you that look in the slide. Those can sometimes reduce the amount of felt recoil. Otherwise, there's more violence at this end of the gun than your unported or uncomped version. It's louder. You can feel the violence in your hand more. It may not be smacking you as hard, but you feel it. You're like, holy shit, there's a lot going on in there. But what it does do is it allows you to get back on your sights more quickly and more easily. That's your benefit. It will speed things up a little bit. Your shot to shot, your splits will be a little bit quicker if that's something that you feel that you need to value. In the real world, is that really going to matter? Is that going to save your life? Almost 100% no. However, if you think there is even the slightest chance that in a real world situation, you might let panic take over just a little bit, and you're just going to be pulling that trigger over and over and over and over and over, this will make you less of a danger to people and property surrounding your intended target, because you will get back on target more easily. It is more controllable. And I hate to think of it like that. I hate to think that anybody would buy a gun and go, no, I really want it ported because I know I'm going to panic like hell if I have to use it. And no, I don't want to think like that. But that's a practical way, I suppose, of looking at it, because there's no other, you can't put a practical need on that little port right there. It's cool. It's a party trick. It's fun. Most of my guns that I have ported or comped, I do it because I enjoy shooting them like that. I enjoy having them. I like having every little edge and advantage that I can possibly have. That's my reasoning. I like cool shit. Why do some people put LEDs underneath their car? Because they think it's cool. That's really about it. I don't think it's cool, but they do, and that's what's important. They're the ones spending their money. You don't have to justify everything that you do. Do it because you want to do it. As long as it's not hurting anyone else, do what you want to do. I have several guns in this size that are comped. So I'd like to say that I won't be buying any more of these trendy new models because I know better. I know I want the Echelon. The Echelon has been pulling at me since it came out, and now they have a ported version, and their ported version looks like it was done really, really, really well. So I want one badly. And I want an XR920p Shadow Systems to go with my Radian comped MR920 and my CR920XP. So I know I'm not going to be stopping anytime soon. So for somebody like me who was already really interested in performance carry, which is what these are, I couldn't be living in a better time because now everybody's offering something. So does Smith do this better than everyone else? Worse? Or is it just a kind of a medium ground, run-of-the-mill factory carry comp? And taking the comp out of the equation entirely, is the Shield Plus a great carry gun choice or only middle of the road? First, let's discuss the M&P Shield on its own before talking about the competency of the Performance Center and their porting work. The size is so compact. It's wonderful. Now understand that the non-comped version is like this. It is significantly smaller. It is a tiny, tiny, tiny gun. And that's wonderful for those of you that want that. It's like somebody made a SIG P365 with ergonomics that are intended to fit a human hand. It just kind of melts into your hand, as most M&Ps do. But bear in mind that being this skinny means that it's got a very oval feeling. Let me get this magazine out of here. So the feeling of this oval grip is much more exaggerated. It is so fucking oval. Now, I love my P365s. I have a few of them. This is my XL Spectre Comp. I really enjoy this. But each of them, I have had to put a different grip module on because they're so square and they're so small and blocky. They're narrow in this direction and in this direction, so that my hand just completely wraps around them, my one hand, so I don't have any room left for my support hand. Now on the Wilson Combat grips, you've got a palm swell here, and they extend the size in this direction a little bit. That allows me to get a better positive grip. Love it. But I learned early on, I can't carry my P365s without changing out the grip module. They also did the smartest possible thing. Something that you'll hear all of us complain about with every gun, because almost nobody gives you 3 magazines. Smith & Wesson gives you 3 magazines. Not only do they give you 3 magazines, but they give you one in the 10 round. That's a flush fit. Now I have added a Pierce grip floor plate to mine. And that means I have somewhere for my pinky to go. If you don't have this, it literally is flush here. My pinky goes completely under it. I barely get 2 fingers on it. Now, while it is shootable like that, it's not as controllable. I would rather have it more controllable. So I've got that extra grip area, and it's not adding any size back here, so it's not adding any difficulty to my concealability. So this was a genius way to go. I mean, for a $10 base pad, now it feels great. Then you have the medium, the 13 rounder. With that filler plate in there, to me, this is a wonderful carry size. Just friggin' wonderful. It only adds a little bit to the back there. Well, I've already got an Optic on there, so I'm not overly worried about printing. I'm able to carry this off just fine. Then you have what I carry as the backup, but you could certainly carry as your primary inside the gun. That's your 15 rounder. And with that spacer, that's a full-size grip with that 15 rounder in there. That's fantastic. It feels really, really good. And it's the best to shoot at the range with. You'll feel like you're carrying or you're shooting like a Glock 19X or Glock 45. It's that much of a big difference. It's that big of a jump. I'm so happy. Smith & Wesson, thank you for doing this. Another big plus. That mag release is easy for me to get to. Now I have large to extra large hands, but my thumbs are not as long as they should be for the size of my hand. So they're a bit short. So almost every gun I have to break my grip a little bit, pivot the gun in order to get to the mag release. I don't really have to do that here. I'm very happy about that. The new slide serrations. They work really, really, really well. They're very bitey, bordering on almost too sharp right here in the center. But they're really, really good. And the stock sights are really, really nice. They're so good, in fact, they make you feel like you don't even need to put an optic on here at all. So you could save the money, never spend the hundreds of dollars on an optic, and still have something that is very competent and easy to shoot. You've got a long sight radius here because this is the 4-inch barrel, not the, 3.2 inch, 3.3 inch that the standard Shield Plus is. Much longer slide. That front sight is much further out than it would be on the standard. So I would feel totally fine just using these sights. Now, to the not so great. Oddly, overly powerful recoil spring. Very, very heavy. Which sounds good because tiny, tiny gun means lots of punishing recoil and muzzle flip, right? So you want a strong spring that counters this, right? Yes, but it also means that when it's coming back into battery, it's slamming all this weight forward and with extra energy because of how strong that spring is. So that you end up in negative recoil. So as you're fighting the natural recoil and muzzle flip to keep it on target, you're going to end up overdriving it because when you've got it right where it needs to be, it's pretty neutral, and that slide comes all the way home, it's going to go doop because of all that extra energy. So it is a bit oversprung. Is it tragically oversprung? No, it just feels a bit odd. That's all. It's not a huge deal, but it is something to be aware of that nobody's really talking about for some reason, and I don't know why. It also means that someone with weaker hands or any physical limitation to their hands, their wrists, tendons, whatever, maybe you've got arthritis or a hand injury, you're just not going to be able to rack this slide. It's just the honest to God truth. So maybe you're getting your children into shooting, and this is a good size for them, and being ported, compensated, whatever you want to refer to it, may make it a little bit easier for them to shoot. You're thinking, oh, this is going to be a good gun for them to be on the range with me with, under my supervision. And you're going to watch them, they're going to be grabbing in weird ways, just struggling and struggling, and that's not safe. I will say this, if you have somebody that's borderline, they don't have quite enough strength to be comfortable, but they are able to do it, have them pull from back here because it's easier to slingshot this than to do anything else. Because again, the serrations are so good that that's much easier to do. The next negative, the first true negative, no tactical rail. Stupidity. Come on now. Yes, it's a small gun. However, the Streamlight TLR7 sub is a small light. So what's the reasoning here? There's no good reason for not having a rail on here. One of the things I continue to like about the Shield Plus, and I've never owned a Shield Plus before this one. I've had an M&P 2.0 in the 45C, the compact 45 ACP. I loved it, but it was a big, chunky, thick, heavy gun. The one thing I like about the Shield Plus is it is so small and thin and narrow and compact that it's a good deep concealment gun. And if I decide, instead of carrying this in a holster today, I want to put this in some sort of tactical bag, fanny pack, whatever you want to call it. And let's say particularly that I don't have an optic on there where it's way more snag free. then maybe I can understand not having the light on there, not having a rail, because you don't want that extra large thing on there to make this harder to hide away in a small bag. Yeah, I can get that. But that's the only reason I can see in today's day and age not to have that availability for somebody. Trigger. Now here's where you're getting bullshitted, and you're getting bullshitted by almost everybody. Yes, the Gen 2 triggers are significantly less creep-filled, better resetting, and snappier than the originals. No question at all. But that's not all that goes into a good trigger. I need a trigger that's going to work 100% of the time. Let me show you what I'm bitching about. In case those of you that are newer to the community and you don't remember when the Springfield Hellcat first came out, one of the reasons that we all kind of looked at it and went, yeah, well, typical Springfield, they screwed something else up, was if you didn't quite have the right grip on that gun and your finger was applying pressure to any lateral pressure to the side of the trigger, then the trigger safety would lock up and not let the trigger go back to the rear. Because that's its job. It's to prevent you from going to the rear unless your finger's on the trigger, right? And actively pulling it. Smith did something here that I just don't understand. It's the geometry of the dingus. In a fight or flight situation, in a struggle, maybe you're trying to draw your weapon and your bad guy realizes that and they're trying to get the gun away from you and you're struggling and you're just trying to get a grip on it right and get that shot off. My finger is not in the optimal position on the trigger shoe. Smith really wants your friggin' trigger finger down here. They don't want you in the middle of the trigger or toward the top, because if you're anywhere up there, you are not able to disengage that trigger safety. This is not something I have ever experienced with any striker-fired polymer pistol ever. Not any Glock, not any Glock clone, not even previous M&Ps. Granted, I didn't like the pivoting safety on the M&P triggers on the first gen, so I put flat triggers on them. Big difference. But it too had that safety. Yeah, I think the M&P that I had before, I had a Hive trigger on there. But it had a dingus that worked. This one, man, if my finger doesn't go on there just right. So if I'm in the perfect conditions, I'm dry firing in my home, or I'm on the range, and I always have that perfect grip, no problem. And the trigger feels nice. Nice and crisp. Very little creep, no stacking, feels good. When it works, and look, sure, I could over-exaggerate by just barely being on it. Here's putting a good amount of hook on there. And again, folks, I have big hands. That's unacceptable. So what's going to happen? I'm going to put a new trigger in there. I have no way around that. Now, I'm also in a unique position where on the range, I may even have an issue with that. And let me explain why. And again, this is unique to me and maybe a handful of others. This is not a reason not to buy this gun, because how many of you are going to be in this exact situation? I own this oddball gun with the pivot at the bottom. So you want to be toward the top of the trigger. So if I'm shooting this for a while at the range, I'm putting 100, 200 rounds through it. I'm having fun with my Daniel Defense H9. And then I go to pick this up. And I go to put my finger in that same spot again. Well, guess what? Again, that's a unique situation. But it is a reality for me. Now for daily carry, that doesn't change a damn thing. Unless I am carrying this all the time, so I am practicing with this all the time. Which ain't gonna happen, because I don't even know if this is gonna be a keeper for me, because that little spot right there cuts me open when I shoot it. So how long I'm gonna keep this, I don't know. I like the gun, but I don't like that. So, yeah, man, that's a bad, bad, bad thing to me. So yeah, I'm gonna end up changing out the trigger. So there's another, what, 130 bucks that I got to spend on a gun that out of the box should be perfect. Now, on to the Optic cut. Here's what happened to me. All of the footage that I've dropped into here during this review of me shooting this gun was of me just trying to zero the red dot. Not doing crazy high performance shooting, not a lot of rapid fire or anything like that. I did a little bit of that in between, but not much. Because I wasn't given the opportunity. Because I'm sighting it in, okay, I take 3 shots, bring the target back. And the very first round, I see where those 3 shots went. I mark those, send it back out to 10 yards again, fire 3 more. Where the hell did the shots go? They're not on paper. Everything on paper is marked. Where the hell did they go? I can't be that far off. I'm not jerking the trigger or anything. I didn't sneeze while I was shooting. What the hell's going on? Then I look at my marks. When I look on the range, I don't see anything. They haven't backed out. The screws haven't backed out, except, well, hot damn. It is loose as hell. Because one thing I know that I've experienced with my Gideon optics so far is they hold their zero, man. They are super high quality. I never have to worry about that. So what on earth could be going on? Also, the dot kept flickering and going out. That's something else that doesn't happen with Gideon optics. They just run, they work. Well, it's very clear, because this is one of their older designs. It's got the battery on the bottom. It was losing connection. Well, shit. So I break out the tool and I go to tighten this down. Well, that one's nice and tight. And I get to this one and it starts doing this. And it's just spinning and spinning and spinning. Is it stripped? Is the screw sheared and the head is just sitting in there? I don't know. Let's find out together. Okay, taking out the one screw that was solid. Maybe. Well, the bad screw is gripping something. Oh, it's not broken. So then is the hole stripped? Possibly. These are direct cut. No mounting plates required. This is cut for the RMSC. Now, since I'm not the kind of person that goes, you know, jumping out of Zodiacs or anything with my gun on. I'm not doing anything crazy like that where I need them to be waterproof. I generally don't put the little plastic base plate on the bottom on these older style bottom load optics because I've never really needed to. But here, had I done that, then I believe that the dot would have at least stayed on because it was losing connection because of how loose it was in here. So I am going to go ahead and put it on and leave it on. I'm going to reattach this. Let's see. So that's the one that came out of that hole. Let's see if this screw has the same issue in the right hole before mounting things back up to it. Seems to go in just fine. Yeah, man, I don't know. So I'm gonna have to play with this a little bit and see what on earth is going on, because it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. And if I can't figure it out, then off to the gunsmith she goes. And if they can't figure it out, back to Smith & Wesson it goes. That's kind of a shame. So yeah, one of the things I loved about this was when I first opened it, it was, hey, I don't have to order plates. I don't have to pay for plates. I don't have to wait for plates. And I don't have the tolerance stacking that plates introduce. It's just going to be a direct mount. Yay for me. But it's not 100%. There's a little tiny gap fore and aft. And do the posts really sit well into the recesses? The bosses kind of work in there, but they're not super great. The bosses could be a little bit taller. That would certainly help. The bosses would be even less effective if I had put the spacer on there, when you think about it. So the hardware is taking all of the stress. That's not good. Okay, enough about the optic issues. I'm confident that I'll have that resolved and I'll be able to carry and shoot this as I was before. Now back to the important question. Is the compensator effective? Is it better than the 2.0 compact and the metal versions that came out at the same time? Like all the gun tubers said? They all said, well, for some reason, the Shield Plus, it felt way more effective. I'd really wonder about that. It's doing something, absolutely. But it's barely noticeable. Bringing this to the range with a CR920 XP and a couple of other comped carry guns, this was the least performance oriented. Or as I should probably say it, the comp was the least effective. So that puts it into the tier of the PSA Dagger Micro C1. For some reason, the C1, their comped slide version of the Dagger Micro, is less effective than the Sig Sauer Spectre comp. This is about as effective as that. It is less effective than this. And while this is not the miracle of the industry a lot of people are saying it is, this is still tremendously more effective than this. And that's me as a Shadow Systems absolute fan and lover. Even I can admit this is not the night and day difference that the gun tubers are saying. But it is a marked improvement over the M&P. Now, does that mean it's not worth buying? No, I'm not saying that at all. If you like this gun and you want that little bitty difference, you'll notice it, but it's just not crazy. Then go for it. You're not going to be unhappy. What are these, like $150 more than a regular standard Shield Plus? Go for it, man. If that's what you want, enjoy it. Go for it. Love it. Have fun. This is about $200 less than this. I would tell you, if that much money doesn't mean much to you, spend the extra and get this. And I don't like to do a video about one product and then tell you, don't buy that product, buy this other product. Because I don't feel that's fair. Because I'm not giving you the full rundown on this other product in this review. Now, I have already done a review on this. You can go back and watch that and see if all of those points add up to something that you want in your holster or in your collection. This is a good gun. It's nice. It feels really good in the hand. It doesn't do shit like this to you, like this tremendously more expensive gun does. It feels slightly more controllable than a non-compensated version. But it's not a magical unicorn that takes away all recoil and takes away all muzzle flip or even a significant amount. Does not make it significantly more controllable. And it will not make up for your poor fundamentals. If you don't have a good grip, it's still not going to change anything for you at all. If you're not shooting full house loads, you're not going to notice a difference at all. If you're shooting light load 115 grain range ammunition, you're probably not going to notice a difference. Oddly enough, even during break-in, this was performing with 115. I was still doing 124s 98% of the time I was shooting it because I had brought 124s to break this one in, and it broke in just fine. Not a single hiccup. I wanted to play it safe. The more power, the more effective the comp is going to be. You are activating that comp by doing two things: running a hotter load and also running that load quicker in more rapid succession. If you're out there either with 115 or you're out there going, you are not benefiting from that extra money being spent. If you're 124, 147, you're running plus Ps, and you're out there doing controlled pairs, you're out there doing build drills, you're rapid firing it, you're activating that comp, and you're doing what it needs to be done. And then you get to enjoy it. So unfortunately, I can't give you 100% green light, 100% red light. There's a lot of yellow in there. Approach it with caution. I don't think most people are going to be unhappy with it. I think most people are going to really, really like it, especially if it fits that niche that you need to fill. If you need something that can completely transform to a very, very small gun, or up to feeling like a full-size gun, this is one of the best ways to possibly do that. It is Optic's cut already. Hopefully you have a better experience than I do. It's got fantastic sights. It's got really, really good serrations. It's got a nice finish that's going to hold up for a good long time. It's got great weight distribution. It shoots well. That's about all I can tell you. That is as close to a no BS review as I could possibly give you. Now, if you stay tuned, I'm going to be doing a full-on range report with this. We're going to be taking this out to the range, Could not do that this week because it was 11 degrees the other day when I went out, so I had to go to the indoor range, and indoor ranges suck for getting footage. Just the way it is. That's why there's so little in this video. But as soon as we get a little break in the weather, gonna head out to the outdoor range. We're gonna run around. We're gonna shoot some steel. We're gonna plink some shit. And we're gonna have some fun. And I'll give you an honest assessment up against other guns, and also a standalone assessment just on this. Thank you for joining me as always, and I'll see you on the future videos.